that are going to be here. Call this meeting to order. July 10th, meeting of the Planning Commission. We'll start with a roll call and then go through the rest of our agenda. The big thing being the public hearing for the PLN 23-083. Maybe we can start in a way that I don't forget to go around half the table. How many of you want to start with your name and district?
Tony Moss, District 3.
David Merrick, District 3.
Clark, District 1.
Todd Queen, District 1.
Jacob Gray, District 3.
Kate Darlington, District 3.
Cindy Watson, District 1.
Hardy Hutto, District 2.
Brittany Hayden, Planning Tech.
Tim McCracken, County Engineer.
Kimmy Mulholland, Engineering Intern.
Scott Sheets, Public Works Manager for Delta County.
All right. Does anyone have any additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda? All right. Do we have meeting minutes to approve? No meeting minutes to approve this week, so we'll get right into the public hearing. We'll start with a presentation by staff. Brittany, I'm assuming you're the one.
That's me.
Then we will hear from the applicant if there's anything to add. After that, we'll open the meeting to public comment if anyone has anything they'd like to say. And then we'll deliberate as a group and hopefully make a decision.
All right,
Let's go.
let's go. Okay, today we are here for PLN 23-083 Group. This is to consider a preliminary subdivision subdividing 17.87 acres in the UGA zoning district into 5 lots of preliminary plat. The property is located on the south side of F Road in Delta. So, like mentioned before, the parcel consists of 17.87 acres, which has been zoned in the urban growth area, the UGA, per the 2021 land use code. The applicant is proposing a 5-lot subdivision, which is a preliminary plat that requires recommendation from your commission to the Board of County Commissioners, who are the final decision-making body. Access is existing from 1710 Lane, which is a private road by way of F Road. There are 4 tri-county water taps assigned to the parcel. Lot 4 does not have a tap assigned. The property has 7.8 shares of UVWUA, which will be managed by UVWUA through an HOA. Lots 1 and 2 have an existing OWTS permitted. Here you'll see the vicinity map, and the project site is located on the south side of F Road, abutting the city of Delta. Here's the zoning map. The parcel has been zoned UGA as it lies within the 3-mile growth management area for the city of Delta, which is in gray area illustrated on the map. To the east, A5 zoning with acreages ranging in a ½ acre to 35 acres. To the south is A20 zoning with acreages ranging in 0.4 acres to 122 acres. This is the preliminary plat for the proposed subdivision. The lots have been coded accordingly. Lot 1 is fully developed, a fully developed residential lot with all utilities installed. Lot 2 is a vacant residential lot with addresses assigned and an OWTS permit, as there were 2 residential units on this lot, which were removed prior to the applicant applying for the subdivision. Lots 3 and 4 are vacant residential lots. Lot 4 does not have a water tap assigned to it. The residential lot is vacant residential ag lands. And lastly, the hatched area to the north of the property is road dedication to be deeded to Delta County for F Road. So, staff has recommended 12 conditions, which are included in the staff report. If you would like me to go over those, I can, or I can leave all 12 of them up.
I think I should go through them.
Okay, so conditions are as followed, PLN -083 is approved as a preliminary plat creating 5 lots in the UGA zoning designation located on the south side of F Road in Delta. This approval shall expire and the plat is considered vacant if the final plat is not submitted within the 12 months from the date of the preliminary plat approval by the Board of County Commissioners. Written request is to extend this time frame. It must be received by the planning department at least 30 days prior to the expiration. All existing and proposed easements and encumbrance included, but not limited to, existing and proposed utility easement, shared access, and water delivery shall be shown on the final plat. Proof of adequate domestic water supply is required for a preliminary plat. You can find it in chapter 5, section 3, water supply and sanitary sewage disposal in the land use code. The applicant shall submit proof of domestic water source taps being purchased for lot 4. All water taps within the subject property shall be listed on the final plat prior to recording. Access permit shall be issued for each lot within the subdivision. Said permit shall be complete and issued prior to the final plat approval. A private road maintenance agreement shall be submitted and approved by the county engineer prior to recording the final plat. This agreement shall include all lots within the subdivision as well as all adjoining properties that access their properties from 1710 Lane. Final plat shall include information of the adjoining properties. So it would include name, account numbers, etc., as well as existing road conditions for abutting roads from the center line and those involved in the project to the satisfaction of the county engineer. Traffic impact study shall be complete. Traffic impact studies shall include at a minimum the information required by table 5A, traffic impact study scope based on the level of study required. Said level shall be determined by county engineering. And continued, a geological and soil report is required for the preliminary plat. A geologic and soil report shall be conducted. Said report shall include the observation of the site visit as qualified engineer regarding the site characteristics outlined in the Colorado Geological Survey. I'm not gonna read this. Drainage reports are required for the site plan associated with the preliminary plat. Drainage report shall demonstrate compliance with chapter 4, section 7B, stormwater management, grading, erosions, and sediment controls, and any applicable state or federal standard for grading, erosion, and sediment controls. All requirements for this report are detailed in chapter 5, section 2, soil stability and drainage analysis. Prior to recording the final plat, the applicant shall provide deeds separate with a legal description of each new lot, including notarized signatures to be recorded with the plat. The final plat shall include all standard plat notes as required by the 2021 Land Use Code. The applicant shall pay the public sites and open space fees of $300 per lot for an increase of 4 lots totaling $1,200, along with all other final plat fees prior to the recording of the final plat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, with that, staff recommends the that the planning commission recommends the following actions to the Board of County Commissioners. Find that PLN 23-083 Brew Group can meet the requirements of the 2021 Land Use Code for preliminary plat and approve a preliminary plat to subdivide 17.87 acres into 5 lots. So lot 1 being 0.711 acres, lot 2 being 0.542 acres, lot 3 being 0.53 acres, lot 4 being 0.551 acres, and the residual lot being 13.290 acres in the UGA zoning district, subject to committee.
Thank you.
With that concludes my presentation.
Sir, that when you walked in, did you want to be able to speak this evening about anything? If so, we have a sign-in board, if we could send that to you. We would like you to sign that with us. Thank you.
So you did it.
All right, so we'll start with questions of staff. Does anyone have questions for Brittany?
Was there any consideration of cluster subdivision?
Not that I'm aware of.
I guess kind of follow up for that, the design of the lot split is a little funny to me with this big residual lot. Is that, how was that?
That was determined by the previous homes that are already built there.
Okay, well, we're asking questions of staff right now.
Oh,
We'll
sorry.
give you guys a chance to,
No, you're fine.
but based on the home sites.
Yes, so based on the home sites, because there was existing residences on some of them. I do know they had come up with a plan
Make it
similar to this. They had a meeting with Austin and Austin kind of rearranged some of the layout of the lots as well.
Okay. Great. Anyone else?
Do they have city sewer out there?
They do not, they're on septic. There was a comment if you, I don't know if you read the packet, that it was included. That it could be a possibility if along the line, if they wanted to go to city, they could.
With the lot not big enough for the septic, right?
That's pretty close.
Isn't it half acre now?
Mhm.
I think they changed it to a half acre this year.
But you still got setbacks and all that. Yeah, there's a 10-inch sewer main located on that road. But there's a big canal. You gotta cross to get it to.
So I think the land use code. Chapter 5, section 3, water sanitary sewage disposal would require. That there be a sewage disposal plan. In this package, and I see 2 or 3 lots that don't have anything, so.
Which code?
Well,
2021 code?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, are we lacking a sewage disposal plan for 3 lots now?
That's in there? You need that?
I think the land use code requires it as part of a preliminary plat, just like if you read. You can't just leave these lots out there with no sewage.
There's septic.
Yeah, but to have it, go hire an engineer and, engineer a whole septic system before you're even approved, is kind of out there to me.
So we could talk about that in terms of conditions, maybe later, if there isn't kind of like a clear answer to why that's not included now. Yes.
Well, if that's what the plan is, then I think it should be made a condition, but if the plan is to obtain those permits, they gotta have them before.
And maybe the applicant can speak to that if, do you
Yeah,
have
but they-
anything else to add to
I
that?
don't.
Okay. Any other questions of staff before we let the applicant kind of fill in some holes for us?
Could you identify up there where 1710 Lane is?
So 1710, so this hatched line up here is F Road. 1710 Road comes down this way.
So it comes through the current property.
Is that a private lane?
Yes, it is. So, sorry, county engineer, technically my
responsibility. I do have concerns here. I am unable to determine from the plat if that road, it starts in the blue area, but I don't know if it crosses that east boundary there where it's narrow. So I would like to see the edge of the road shown on the plat to prove whether or not the road is in that.
There's an access off of F Road right there. Guess where the road goes up?
Yes,
Angle there.
yes, the 1710 connects to F Road right here,
Mhm.
and then it curves, and
Comes down.
I would like to
there.
see the road edge, the existing road edge shown here to determine whether it's in that 60-foot easement or not.
Yeah, also it lists the easement as an access and utility easement. So how much of it's road, how much of it's gonna be utilities, or is it gonna be overlaid?
So the land use code, I think the trigger for pavement is 8 or more lots, I believe. So it would not. You had 4, you got Selby, and then the 5 for the subdivision and Wells. So you've got
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Seven.
7.
it would not require.
Can you point out on the map where the neighbors that share that private lane are?
Wells right here
Uh-huh,
and Selby right here.
okay.
Got it.
I've asked this question before, and you've probably answered it before, but can you subdivide the subdivision again? Cause there was something like they can come back and subdivide again, this other parcel, or is that?
Yeah, so the residual piece,
That can be ran back through and
Yes.
subdivided again?
yes,
Gotcha, cause I thought at one time, I didn't know.
it would be like a replat.
All we're doing tonight is looking at what they're proposing now, but if they did wanna do that, they'd have to come back again and apply.
Yeah,
So the private road runs over a DMEA easement?
Yes. I believe so, right here. So there are several, I mean, it happens all over the county where DMEA is within county right away. And I would suspect there are plenty of other places that.
Yeah.
I mean, this road, there is no way for Selby to get to their property without 1710 road. So DMEA, I can't speak for them, but they're very aware of this. I'm sure they are.
Caroline's crossroad everywhere though.
Yeah.
Every day.
But it's an underground or is that overhead power?
I'm not sure.
The one at the back of the lots is overhead, for sure. I don't know. See that easement right down the back of all those lots?
Right
That one's
here.
overhead.
Well, the reason I'm asking is DMEA just shut us down on a irrigation water line next to their underground power line.
Within 4 feet.
Yeah, we're a little farther away than that, and I said, oh,
Well, they really don't want any other utilities within 4 feet of their line, is what they're.
they didn't want it inside of their
A question
easement.
on that 1710 road, assuming Selby's in the bottom right corner. If there was an emergency situation that happened, would there only access to leave going back out that 1710 or 1710 lane?
That's it.
Yeah. I
What
believe
is
so.
what is the, I don't want to use the word condition, but what is the quality of that road? If all of a sudden an emergency happened and they either had to get out, because I mean, they're the last one. Is that a safe way for them to still exit out of there?
So the road, the first 100 feet of the road is up to standard, but the rest of it will need to be upgraded to road standards.
Did I miss that in one of the 12 points?
I think it's in my comments.
Oh,
which I
okay.
think
Yeah, see that in- okay.
the pack.
is in the.
It's a little bit of impact in there. If all of a sudden you had
Yeah.
a gosh, kind of fire breakout or something like that, my thought is Selby's the last one out there trying to get out from
Yeah.
where they're at. Okay, just I asked, thank you.
You said the first 100 feet is up
Mhm.
to the rest?
It gets really narrow in there. There are photos in the packet, I believe.
Yeah, I saw those, yeah.
I see.
Yep.
But I-
And that would
It's
be the
pretty much
Nancy.
So does the county take it over with this many lots? Do you guys start maintaining or no?
So the policy that the board has instructed me, they're not gonna take any gravel roads on. So it's gonna have to be paved before they'll even consider it, and you would have to dedicate the right of way to the county.
So the main.
So it wouldn't be an easement, they'd have to
Right.
dedicate.
And once it gets paved, Tim, my understanding is it's not immediate. It's usually a period of like, I'm gonna preface this, but I believe it's like a 2-year period of time that they have to build it up on the side, maintain it, keep it, and then the county comes up, looks at the road, and then they would incorporate it into like road and bridge. Is that correct, sir?
Yes,
Okay.
the board has to accept the dedication of the right of way
That's
and
what
the
I'm saying.
acceptance for the maintenance.
Is that 60-foot easement adequate for what that would be?
Our minimum requirement for right of way is 60 feet, so yes.
So that would work.
So could somebody clarify the comment that was one of the conditions about access permits? Do each of those lots now have to have an access permit to that private lane?
It's not, so it's a private road, so it's technically not a permit. We document the locate, so I take pictures and a lat and long of where they build their road.
So it doesn't go through the road and bridge?
It does, but
application?
it's recommendations because it's a private road, so it's not our jurisdiction to dictate how it's built. But we recommend how that accesses are built, but that's not true of the road.
The
The
point at which
1710.
like the road, the 1710 meets with F road. Is your jurisdiction.
1710, so the road standard states that shared driveways can only access 2 parcels. We already have without subdivision 3, so it has to be updated to a road.
Right, because over the 2.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Do they need a water tap on the big lot?
We are asking if they can provide the water tap.
It's a condition, right?
Yes, that would order the condition. Okay.
So after looking at all the response from all the review agencies, there seems that there can be a rule between setbacks and easements. So a lot of this property that gets chewed up. Is there gonna be room to build a home on these lots? Is that anything we concern ourselves with? Between easements for removal of tail and wastewater back to the Uncompahgre Valley water users for each lot. On-site wastewater setbacks. I mean, it just seems like these little half acres, like there's just gonna be nothing left.
So there is already a home built on one of them.
Correct.
Correct. And they are trying to build a couple more. I mean, it's gonna be pretty tight.
There were 2 mobile.
There were.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's gotta be a mobile.
And the residential house.
There were 3 homes there previously to this, that we removed because they were trunk homes. Sorry, bad word.
So-
They're-
Back to Todd's comment, if this gets chopped up, will that impact the on-site waste treatment plan? Because we're already down nearly to half an acre. What, 0.59 over or 0.059 over?
They changed the requirements this year to half an acre. I don't agree with it, but they did.
I mean, I can't answer those questions because it's a environmental health.
You aren't gonna build a big house.
No, there's setbacks definitely. So is there the Uncompahgre easement, Todd, is that on overlapping the DMV easement in the back? Or where's that at?
Well, so the Garnet Canal is on the west side of the big lot there. There's a 100-foot easement there, but that doesn't look like that's gonna affect any of the smaller lots. But if so the Uncompahgre Valley water users.
Must be right down through there, where underneath that, it's piled underneath the.
The way I read it is that all of that's gonna have to be part of the development that they're gonna have to, where's their letter? Okay, so no new water delivery structures will be constructed for the proposed subdivision. But it does say the lot owner or seller shall be responsible for any necessary easements or water delivery systems. And for the removal of tail wastewater back to the UBWUA and water delivery system for each lot. we require an irrigation homeowners association to be formed for the proposed subdivision that provides for the collection of payment. So, yeah, no, but if there would have to be piping systems put in for each of the lots to collect and deliver tail water back to their system, we're just chewing up more space there.
Definitely.
And
I
I
know.
feel like it might be time for the applicants, maybe speak to some of these issues if they've thought through these site
Yeah,
plan designs and,
that's a pretty long list, but,
yeah. Maybe you can come up, introduce yourself, and
And for the lady that came in a little bit late, did you want to talk or address anything this evening? You're together, okay, just checking, go ahead. Thank you.
you can introduce yourself, if you have anything on the top, you know, from what you've heard us kind of discussing that you want to clear up or add comment to. And then we'll probably have some follow-up questions with you.
Sure. Joel Krogman anyway, and I'm the president of Brew Group, so a small partnership group trying to put this together. I guess really to summarize, 99.9% of these issues I've heard addressed, replatted, things like lot size. I've turned in 4 plats. One was 1 acre. Then they told me 7,500 square feet was good, which I thought was pretty low. So I did 3rd acres, and then we ended up with this at the last powwow, the 1/2 acres. I've had engineers, I've had architects, and I've had builders all say no problem on all this stuff, including the turnarounds for emergency vehicle. I mean, we've got room for all this, near as I can tell, for anybody that's built or excavated, or I've had a lot of expertise up there for the last couple of years. We've been going through this. So I guess I don't feel like anything that needs to be addressed will, if there's anything undone on the list of things I've received, it's only because at some stage until I get approval, I've got about 600 grand into this, to be honest. So it's like, okay, let's wait a little bit, get our approval. Then any requirements, I didn't hear anything too different that I haven't heard before. Some of the city requirements about traffic studies and stuff, to be honest, I don't quite understand, being there was 3 residences there before, and I'm just trying to build the same 3 that I tore down at this stage. Because again, I don't know anything about it. I haven't read those requirements or whatnot, but I wonder how in an area where they've built, you know, many homes over the last few years, why 3 more homes requires all this additional study and whatnot. We've had engineering studies on the soil, the quality of the soil for, you know, building, for septic, all those things are complete.
And are you viewing, not that you have to have these plans, but with kind of this residual lot, are you viewing this as kind of like a 2-stage development where these are the first things and then eventually you'll do something with that residual lot?
We even got to the point where we platted it out at one point, but again, to be honest, there was a lot of confusion over lot size and things like that, so I pulled that original plat. Ultimately, yes, we'd like to develop not the green space to the south. It's just a lot of green space and off of 1710 lane. So we only want the 3 houses on 1710 lane. Our goal is everything to the north, that we put in a few more houses, again, depending on lot sizes and things, could be up to 8 more homes, at paved streets, curbs, all the good stuff that goes with that. We're hoping that we can, you know, pretty much work with what we have for the 3 houses that we tore down and want to rebuild. The next phase will certainly be a little more grand, I guess, and a little bigger properties to address some of the other concerns. But these will hold septic and a little house to someone's, you know, no more than 1,400 feet or so square foot house for the first 3. That's our goal. Yeah.
And have you begun to secure a water tap for that lot 4 that does not have one yet?
We made contact. Again, I didn't know that one's a little bit new to me, that was gonna be required, but it'll be easy.
Okay.
I've been in touch
You're
with
in
the
touch with them.
water
That's
department.
Tri-County water.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions?
What's your sewage disposal plan?
Septic on all 3 lots, mostly, and again, this has been a long process, and I'm a little bit new to it, but we had presented this to the city at one point in time, the whole our whole plan, and they passed. So we're back to building what we thought was required as lots based on many, many meetings. We came up with the half-acre lots, and again, our engineer and architect and builder all agree that can be done.
We've been to the Delta County Environmental and Health Association with your proposal to put septics on these other lots.
Yes, and they were the ones that shared. We initially had a little smaller lots, again, based on information received, but this is why we went back to half-acre lots, was based on health departments.
I assume we wouldn't be looking at this if through the county. And if it wasn't, you know.
Well, I think it should be addressed.
And there was a septic on one of the lots, currently lot number 2, I think.
With
we
the
call
two
it.
permits existing, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're using the one, that house is complete.
Yeah.
And then we hope to be able to just rebuild the second one and then continue to build septic from
But
there.
the other two don't have a permit.
Yeah.
At this stage, correct.
Right. But I would think because of these concerns about once we put in easements and everything else in here, is there still gonna be enough area to build a septic?
Depends on what engineer you get. but,
Right.
I mean, it's like out of our peer review, I believe.
I've been told yes by an engineer at this stage, that's all.
I'm just-
And then it's not necessarily my area of expertise, but the soil studies were done and they say yes.
I think chapter 5, section 3 requires a sewage disposal plan approved by the Delta County Environmental Health.
Can we go back to the conditions that staff? I feel like there's that proof of adequate water supply pursuant to the water supply and sanitary sewage. Maybe we can amend that to say adequate water supply and on-site
Yeah,
water.
I think it's required.
I'll note that for a potential addition when we do that.
That makes sense.
The other thing that came up in the documents was the requirements that 1710 lane be rebuilt to local authority access standards.
It's certainly doable. I believe it's pretty well there now. We need an addition of an emergency turnaround,
Yeah,
which I've reached out to excavators to build, but again, haven't started based on, yeah, so I'm prepared for that.
you don't need to do it up front.
And right, any other. Based on, information I've received, we've done our kind of measurements, whatnot, we'll probably have to do a little work up there. I think in particular about the turnaround, the little area you're talking about, but there is room, I believe, to widen it and to do what we need to do, pretty easy.
The other concern I have is the irrigation water plant.
Mhm.
How, I mean, this has already come up that maybe there's gonna have to be some additional piping and easements and things. How is that irrigation water gonna be
Yeah.
handled?
I can speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, Michelle, if you wanna introduce yourself and how you're.
Michelle Roberts,
Go ahead, this lady.
working with Joel on this plan, former planning commission member, so good to see y'all. We're working with Fernando, so Fernando's well aware of this project. And what the intent of this project is to bring sustainable living to Delta County. So we are putting in gardens with irrigation and little tiny chick coops for people so they can have their own self-sustaining property. And our goal is to use irrigation water so that people can actually grow gardens and do things that they need to on their property. And so Fernando's very well aware of this property and he's working on my personal property, so we've had a lot of discussion about it. So we are working with Fernando and UVWA to figure out a plan for the irrigation. But our intent is to use the irrigation that's currently available and distribute it among all the different properties as we develop.
So is it gonna be shared through the pipeline, time shared, or do you?
It's gonna have shut-offs for people if they don't obviously pay their HOA water dues, but Fernando was talking to me, he knows how to do it. I don't remember his plan, but he knows how to do all this and we told him about the shares. And so there'll be shut-offs and measures in place where people will have access to irrigation when they contribute to the HOA fees. But obviously if they don't pay it, then they don't get their water. But that's what we're gonna do. And we want it to be very small. We're not looking to we don't want to make money on the water. We want to provide it for the people so that they can grow crops and do little tiny gardens and sustain themselves. So that's our goal with this property, is to make it something that's really actually nice for Delta, that has affordable housing for Delta, that allows people to sustain themselves. So that's our goal.
So obviously Fernando, more than getting the water, has a plan to get it
back to a major distributor without running it across.
Well, we
The
all know
easement
Fernando,
and
like
all that.
Fernando's not gonna leave us with water pooling in one place, so.
Gotcha, well, that's,
I haven't got him on this, but.
that's always really.
I'm sorry, you don't know Fernando, he did the sheep farm,
We're trying to figure out like the exit of this and how it doesn't flood out in the street or
Right.
onto a neighbor, that's more of it.
Right,
That's what
for
we're trying
sure.
to figure out.
And you can definitely talk to him about that, I'm sure he's well aware of that, it's on the irrigation.
And we do have two head gates on this property, both just perfectly located to avoid easements, but still be in a lane that there's gonna be gas, well, there is already gas and electricity. And so everything will be in a, 15-foot strip all the way in between the properties and the other one on the far. About there. So we have great access to water there. Easy to pipe and avoid any kind of overruns or anything.
Yeah,
So the Uncompahgre Valley water users, GHE lateral is piped through this property. Does that interfere with any of the lots that you're proposing?
I'm sorry, ask that question
None of
again.
that power easement.
The GHE,
Yeah, you run, see that power easement coming on the back of those 3 lots right there? It's right underneath it. They just buried it.
okay. And so you're gonna lose 17.5 feet off that.
And DMEA is 12.5 each way. And it's not, doesn't look like
There's
it's dead.
17 ways, 35 total.
What is the current, oh, go ahead, Matt.
I'd say back to the other previous slide, bullet number 3, talking about the water share there. I think we just need to include the sewage disposal. I think there needs to be a perk test, an applicability test done for each of those vacant lots to see if there's adequate space for a septic system. I think we just left it off. It's included in chapter 3. It's been mentioned. So we just need to make sure that's included.
They do soil analysis now.
Well, that's the part, that includes perk test.
Those bad boys, by the way, it's like, you gotta work to do those.
I'm the little guy.
But you go up there and look.
I don't know, that's good, but whatever it is, I've had them.
I don't know how much weight the city's responsible in anything, when one of their comments is that based on city and state natural resource and hazard maps, the property may contain regulatory wetlands. And reading through the packet, I know there's at least some neighbors that are concerned about the way water rules on these properties, that this on-site wastewater system is just going to contribute to that and contaminate water, wetlands. So I don't.
Well, that was part of my concern
No,
about
there's-
not having a septic plan. If somebody's has to look at this Department of Health and make sure that it can be done and it isn't gonna impact the nature.
Definitely needs to be conditioned for sure.
I mean, it
Yeah, I mean,
was to figure that out before going through it. It is a requirement of development to have all those things.
And I'm very familiar with the property, obviously, and where the septics are gonna be, I mean, the wetlands are way to the south. Yeah, thank you, Bishop. But again, I've addressed that concern, I feel, and we'll present that, I guess, at some point too.
So where the septics are gonna be going are for. These are-
Sorry. Oh, wait, no. The little tiny.
Yeah.
Well, here's the water plant and such. Septic and irrigation water. How are you gonna keep those two things separate?
Why they make the big.
Look at this, you see the previous trailers that were on here and the previous home that was up here. So this is where the septic that is already existing is, with these two right here. So there's already been a septic here, so yeah. And then if you look at the grade, this is very far away from the wetlands down here and the other very small wetlands. So it's not, there's. It's not like right next to the wetlands.
All right, one more question for the applicant is, what is the current status of the 1710 lane, like is there a current road maintenance agreement? How is that currently?
Maintenance agreement that's been signed by one owner, two other owners, didn't participate in the maintenance over the last couple of years, which I've done 100% of, and refused to continue to. But all new 3 houses will be, or 4 properties will be required to participate in the maintenance agreement that's been already made and agreed to and signed.
So currently there's a road maintenance agreement, but it has been created somewhat recently within your ownership of the property. You didn't purchase the property.
Correct. Before that, it's a gentleman's agreement. That's what I was told by neighbors. And for whatever reason, when I went to honor that gentleman's agreement, nobody was interested. So we did create a written road agreement.
Is that gonna be covered in an HOA, so it's?
Sort of, yeah.
Binding?
HOA, for lack of a better word, again, there's a different legal term for it, I guess, because it is just for the road and water, but yes.
The road didn't have to be brought up to county standard for that.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll just be a regular county gravel road.
It'll be a private.
Be private,
But up to county gravel road standard.
Yes.
Joel, there was a letter that we got from Reg Towing. From Reg
Mhm.
Towing. It sounds like he goes in and out of there quite often, all hours of the day.
Was right there, you can.
I know, but I have to address him, but
Mhm.
I'll hold him. And what are your thoughts about that? I mean, obviously he's worried about impact, safety, he has a business. Worried about the wetlands, I mean, the water tables, adding more homes. How would you address that if I was him talking to you?
I'll be careful. For one, he's correct. He comes in and out
Okay.
often with very large pieces of equipment and destroys the road on a very regular basis, which I have maintained. Secondly, is concerned about wetlands. I've cleared out around 30 dump trucks full of garbage that he left me on my land because he had been using it with the previous owners, okay, and mine for a year under the agreement that we would clean that land that he would clean it when he was done, but that never happened, so I took care of that. So everything there was a lot of toxic waste, there was a lot of asbestos, there was a lot of just all kinds of waste in that whole area there. And like I said, 30 dump trucks that were moved out of there. So that's how to address it, is that it's only improved greatly. There was already two poor septics that are already being operated that were terrible. And I fixed one of those and I'm willing to fix the other one. And the third house was on septic that just dumped into a hole in the ground, which obviously I wouldn't be doing that moving forward. So I feel like we're making pretty big improvements towards the ecology. I plan on using these wetlands myself into a conservancy and keeping that area clean and nice. So that's how to address it. I have a very ecological mindset, and we want that property west of us, where his property is, also to be pristine.
Nice answer.
What is the kind of legal process of creating a road a road maintenance agreement? Obviously, the road upgrade would be the responsibility of the developing party. But how does that get finalized? I know once it's finalized, it'd be recorded somewhere official, but how do these seem, it seems like there's kind of 3 parties with differing views on who should be responsible for the maintenance and then what percentage of the financial and labor costs. How does that get worked out?
That's up to the developer and the landowner using it.
So as long as all adjoining parties
It's a private
come
road.
to an agreement.
It's a
that's
private
the
road,
agreement.
we're not gonna regulate that.
Let them fight amongst yourselves.
Exactly, it's not
It
our,
won't be fine because I maintain it, because I have new properties
it's
going
not
in
the
there.
county's job to regulate that.
Sure. So that's a completely private
Yes.
negotiation between the neighbors.
But we do require them at
But-
the plat, right?
Yeah, we require it
see
to
it.
be done, just how it gets there and what it says.
Who inspects it? You don't inspect the road?
I do, I've been out there inspected what's there already.
And then whenever, if it does, you put the vinyl.
Yep,
And the mention of the traffic study, sorry, kind of going back to staff here, but the mention of the traffic study, you know, it's being at the discretion of the county engineer and road and bridge, like what level of study that is required. Do we have any kind of upfront idea for the applicant? The extent of a traffic study that would be required, the cost involved in that, and whether it's really needs to be done.
I'm gonna say at a minimum level 1, which is pretty simple. Anyone in the room could do a level 1. I can send the applicant the traffic counts for the nearest intersections, and they can, it's a simple math equation that they can do. And that will determine if a level 2 or 3 is required.
Okay.
I'm not sure what, if I think the threshold is 20%. If you increase it by 20%, you're gonna have to do a higher in-depth, like a level 2 or level 3.
So you're saying.
And according to the applicant, he doesn't think that there's gonna be that much of an increase because you're kind of netting out.
Mhm.
Okay.
20% of the road's capacity, who determines the road's capacity?
That will be determined by the road counts for one. We have road counts for all of District 1 that was done in 2021.
So that's our baseline.
Yes.
And we're talking F road, right?
Right.
That's the one we're counting. Gotcha.
1710 you're increasing
Yeah.
traffic, probably not very much, but that intersection
Turning
is what
in.
we're gonna wanna know. How many cars are gonna come in
Coming
and
in
out
as
with this increase of four lots.
10 cars a resident.
I like the question, on that, since there were already existing homes there. How would that impact the traffic since there were already homes that we could remove?
Well, at this point, you've removed, I don't know, I'm not to me, it's, at this point, you've removed them, so there are no current residents, and so adding residents to the area will increase the traffic.
Fairly simple, I'm game.
Tim, can I ask you a
Well,
question?
they have addresses, so.
So Selby's
Somebody said
also
address.
presented us with a deed on this road, saying that the road belongs to them. They have a deed to this road. So what is your knowledge of, and it appears there was a fence put up that shouldn't have been on a property line, an easement, concrete dropped in a ditch. I mean, I made little notes on this, but they included copies of this deed that they own this road. So where's the relationship between the builder and people that say they own this road? I mean, I'm asking you.
So what's shown on the plat is an easement, which is you can be a recorded document,
Right.
but you don't own the land. So the easement is a burden to the owner, Mr. Bruger, for access for Selby and Wells. So if it was deeded, the surveyor should have caught it and it would have been drawn like a property line instead of an easement. So probably a recorded easement, not a deed.
Well, it says up on top, this deed
I think
may,
the deed says, the deed conveys the property and then it includes an easement. I think
okay, I'm
that's-
just asking more than,
Well, I'm just,
anything.
I don't have
Yeah.
it in front of me, but I think it included an easement, the deed. The.
Like it includes water rights.
Yeah, it
and
includes
this
an
and that.
easement, but they don't own the road, they just have the right.
Whatever, you can put all.
Okay, you just got an easement.
sure,
You'll see it on, it shows what the deed, but it's.
Well, somebody can find that out and clarify it too.
There could have been those
they
trailers.
took the effort to add this on, and it appears maybe some other issues about a fence being put up on their property or concrete.
That
Being-
will matter.
I agree, but I wasn't worried about that side of it as much as,
Yeah.
are we trying to approve something in a subdivision hypothetically that really is not a road access that they have, you know what I'm saying? Because then we've got another problem. Okay, thank you.
Okay, does anyone have more questions for the applicant or staff before we move on to public comment?
Did you receive any feedback from Delaware County Fire Protection District?
No, I didn't say anything.
No, the fire.
1,000 feet.
It's important.
Fire and water.
Do we have
You know if there's
a
a
fire
fire,
hydrant?
is there a fire hydrant within?
Is there a fire hydrant at all?
Not right on my property, no.
You think they would?
Kitty corner to the high school. The high
Uh-huh.
school, I'm sure they have fire, but since county, they're not gonna run fire hydrants out. So,
I think our standards are 1,000, though, supposed to be 1,000 feet. Maybe put another one.
And you mentioned there is a turnaround, there's plenty enough room, kind of like a hammerhead kind of a thing for emergency access.
We're putting one, down lower, but currently, to clear up something that I said earlier, anybody that goes up top there, in fact, that becomes an issue because people get lost. There's 3 different exits and entrances to the
Yes.
3 different properties, and they all connect, so you could turn around and do jumping jacks, you could, it's 2 acres of land to run around in. So there's currently a big turnaround, for all of us up there. But it's all of our individual properties, if you will. So I understood from engineering that there has to be one turnaround.
Exactly, yeah, you don't want to.
Right.
And that's why I've been recommending a cul-de-sac.
That's what I was wondering, if there was a cul-de-sac or a hammer. I can't read some of this real small stuff, I'm sorry. I printed it off thinking that would help me, it's like. Oh, there it is, okay. Oh, okay, I get it, see what you're saying. Thank you. That's, get my.
All right, I think with that, we'll wrap up your part, Joel,
Thank you for your
and
time, thank you.
move on to public comment. I've got a few folks on the list. Deborah Selby is here. We can start with you. If you can come up, state your name and address and maybe point out. I mean, I think we are all fairly familiar now, but point out where you're at compared to the applicant property.
Yes, my name is Deborah Selby. I am also power of attorney for my elderly mother that lives at 484 1710 Lane. I am her full-time caregiver also.
Okay, if you want to use the big map behind you, it might be a little easier than trying to reach the one on the wall. There you go.
This is my current home.
Okay.
This is my mother's current home. We are on the very back end of the lane there.
All right, and what would you like us to know?
I would like you guys to know that we have had nothing but problems since Joel has bought this property. I believe I'm a little late getting some stuff in. I had turned in it on Monday. The woman I spoke to said that was fine to turn in my comments.
Yep, we did receive your comment.
Okay, basically Joel came in with an idea that he could just do whatever he wanted. I was told on many different occasions, like the fence that's dropped on Tri-County water easement in between our houses. He had spoke to me about this and had told me it was going to be several feet off the property line. Then he dropped concrete and trees in this. I actually have permission from because my water tap sets on his property. There's like a 5-foot space between my property line and where my water tap is. And according to Tri-County Water, I can run. I've already paid for an additional line off of that tap. We've been planning on putting in a home for my son who is away at school currently. My son is the 5th generation that has been raised on that property. It's really distressful for me because actually 6 months after he had purchased the property, he had a backhoe sitting down there. We did need some road maintenance done. I had spoke with him. He told me it would be no problem. He could have that guy when they got done tearing the trailers out. He had the backhoe right there. He would be able to fill those holes. I told him we could split the gravel on that part. And then I would take care of the other part that we solely would use because it's a hill. One road goes up, this way. The middle part where the 2 trailers used to be was the part we're talking about. It's been flooded out every year by Uncompahgre. This year was particularly bad because I happened to be out of town. I was actually at sea and could not be contacted. This road flooded out. It flooded out for 2 days. I turned in the video evidence. I have that because my house setter, I told her specifically when I was gone to pay attention to what the Brew Group was doing because we've had so many problems. I mean, he has told me he would fix that road. He has done absolutely zero road maintenance to that. I had turned in the text messages that were between myself and Joel, where he had said, you know, I talked to him in person, I had messaged him, I had asked him. He goes, well, when I get done tearing the trailers out, because that's gonna tear up the road, we will go ahead and do that. He never did. The road has been left like that just since then, which is actually, it's a burden on my mom and myself. My mother no longer drives. We have 2 small Priuses. I am almost on that property constantly because I take care of my mother. The only time I'm not on that property is when I am at work. Maybe 1 car a day is using that road from our purposes. We have never had a problem with Tom. We talked about it. We wanted to get this road stuff done. They immediately dumped 2 truckloads of gravel on the beginning of that road. That's why the beginning of that road is so good. It's because Tom Wells has been maintaining that because he uses the road more. I mean, you call it a gentleman's agreement or whatever, but we were keeping to that where Joel isn't. I mean, my mom is on a fixed income. You know, this road has been getting worse and worse, all the rain we've had. I mean, it's worse and worse and worse. And then he needs a road maintenance agreement. I mean, I don't even know what to say. And I am concerned about the way that is stated in the deed to my property because this is my great-great-grandmother's homestead property. I can answer all the questions about where the utilities run on the road. They run above, they run underneath. It runs over Tom Wells' property. There's no way he is going to divide those lots into half-acre lots without going over Tom's property or cutting into those greatly, because he will have to move that road from what my understanding is to lengthen it, because it goes over Tom's property. That used to be my aunt's. I was born and raised on that property.
All right, so it sounds like your concerns are primarily with making sure that you have access to your property, that you're not gonna be on the hook financially for road deterioration that is not your responsibility.
Yes. When it,
I don't think I have any specific questions. I just want to make sure I understand your primary concerns with the development.
Because the civil stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we
Stuff
can't.
like the fence or that's a civil matter. That.
oh, yes,
Just so you know.
yes, I do
want to
know.
be very clear. What we do is we listen to, what is being proposed.
Yes.
And we can make some recommendations, but we cannot, do anything else beyond that. Our job is to send it to the next level.
Yes, ma'am, I am well aware of that. I also would like to let you guys know that Joel is also aware that these are civil matters. I have previously spoke to an attorney. We need an attorney now because he is telling me he's doing one thing and then he does something else.
So that,
So on your concerns about the road really is all I want to talk about.
Okay.
Like, so if he did, is that the only, like, if he did bring this up to county road specs and twice the road is there and all that, would you still object to what he's doing? Or
Well,
would it be like 10 times better road? Or
I am actually against the subdivision.
you just against it all?
A better road, sure. If he would have done what he said he was going to do a year and a half ago, the road would not be in the situation it is. We had drainage ditch like there by where the trailers used to be. And then a little trench that, just went across and it would drain the water out into some of the wetlands because there's actually quite a bit more wetlands up here than they are mentioning.
but your road is, to just clarify what Hardy's saying. If the applicant brought that road up to a better spec than what it is now, and he maintained it, county spec, and he maintained it. I mean, growth happens.
Oh, no, yes, it does,
Understand
ma'am.
that.
Yes,
So-
it does.
How would you feel about that?
I mean, it would be fine if the road was better. I
It'd be
mean,
better, he ain't doing nothing. so.
yeah, so
I'm just
nothing
wondering
is
if that's
better.
The only gripe you got, or if it's.
I do not want the subdivision at all. I have absolutely no interest in living next to a subdivision, especially when the subdivision is being ran by a man that does not keep his word. That is my main concern, is he fast talks. He tells you one thing and then he turns around and does another. I believe I had sent some of the text messages that, we have had. You know what I mean? It is a huge concern. If he was acting in a reputable manner or in a non-harassing, threatening way, I mean, that would be totally, completely something else. But I do not trust this man. I tried to help him when he bought that property. I mean, because I did the realty paperwork when my mom sold it. The things that he thinks has not been disclosed, I personally disclosed them to the person that was there previously. And I have a hard time understanding why he has this piece of property, you know what I mean? And then he's like, oh, he wanted to swap some properties with them. He tried to get us to buy some property with the threat that basically if we didn't buy that, he was going to build 9 patio homes on it right next to my elderly mother's. You know what I mean? Like the way he has went about this is not okay. I mean, I talked to him in the beginning when I first met him. I told him, oh yeah, this is, I think they took a supporting wall out of that house. I mean, I was very good to him. I'm a lot like my father was. And I'm very honest and upfront, and I wanted to help him to make that better. But it has turned into something else entirely. I have him blocked on my phone, so he cannot contact me.
All right, we have no, jurisdiction over those civil matters, and we have no ability to decide anything based on an assessment of someone's character. We have to look at the facts of the property that's being developed or wants to be developed.
And if they're making recommendations of what's being.
And I guess I would just say, we hope that some of these things might be resolved because they would be legally binding, recorded in legally binding ways as opposed to handshake agreements and whatnot. I think we all understand your primary concern. Is there anyone else that has a question, clarifying questions or this person? Yeah.
I also, like I said, my mother is on a fixed income. She has lived on that property for 60 years. I mean, we do not have a business. We are not making money off of that property in any way. I mean, for us to enter into a road maintenance agreement with basically 2 other people that have businesses that are making money off this. I mean, this is a financial burden on my mother, and she is not well. It's literally all I can do, to go to my job, to take care of my mom, to take care of this property. Because we do have that little homestead life where we could garden. We protect 8 acres of wetlands. We have birds in there. We have, even the cranes come through our property. And we are not trying to get rich. We are trying to protect that part of the property and just have our peaceful life that we've had. I mean, I live in the house I was born and raised in. I mean, I will not be entering into a maintenance agreement with somebody who has not kept their word. And from what I understand, that is also a civil matter. And then we start bringing in these court expenses. Even if I do sign this agreement and later on somebody else is not maintaining it, I again have to acquire an attorney and go to court at our expense to enforce this written agreement. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I don't know that we have say over that. I think the applicant would be wise to think about how to work that out with you in a way that doesn't place more financial burden on yourself. Matt, you have another.
Just a quick question. 1710 was the only access you had to your property? And how long has that been in existence?
I'm gonna say that's probably been in existence at least, probably 80 years.
So who maintained it then?
Well, my father maintained that road. And when he passed away, my mom had the property for an additional 6 or 7 years. She was graveling it. I mean, if things are done in a timely manner, it doesn't really need much maintenance. You know what I mean? Like,
You don't have a lot of impact at this point.
yes, we don't have a lot of impact. She had gravelled the road down below where it comes in off F Road, and she had gravelled the hillside that goes up to the other house, the 486 house. And the other road back behind, which is a BLM road, she had gravelled all of those before we sold the property.
BLM, what do you mean?
That Uncompahgre, there's a road back there that's Uncompahgre Water Road Bureau of Land Management. It goes around the whole top of the side of the hill there, sir.
Is that, you know, about close to that or no?
It's right here.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, what roundabout are we exactly talking about?
So the applicant has proposed putting in a cul-de-sac at the top
Oh,
of their
okay.
property to increase the safety and access to those properties.
On the top?
On, well, on the south side, you can barely see it, but it's in that little.
Dash right there, a little dash.
Okay, I see it.
So the county engineer has requested that be a part of the road upgrade.
Yes.
In order to do this subdivision, that there would be a point in which emergency vehicles could safely turn around.
Yeah.
And that, you know, according to the
He's in the middle of that.
preliminary plat, that's all
Yes, sir.
on his property and at his expense.
And that benefits you. I mean, it does, it benefits everybody there. I mean, to have emergency
Services.
safe turnaround.
the-
is very important.
The way it is now, the road actually comes up on my property and goes around my garage. And the trespassing issues,
It
I
would not be
mean-
any longer than that's. Make sure the applicant knows
okay,
If you could work something out on this, if you're worried about the maintenance on the road, if you work something out with him that you don't have, you know. That might make good neighbors, you know, because you gotta live by each other.
that.
well, I am actually, my mother and I are the only residents that live off of that road currently, are only myself and my mother.
If he brings that road up to county tax, it'll be a hell of a lot better. It's 9 days.
And I'm not disputing that it would be nice to have a better road. All I'm saying is, we don't make money off that property. That's our homestead. It's been our family for generations. We just want to have our continued quiet life. We don't want to be responsible to maintain a 35-foot road that we don't even need.
Yeah, I think your perspective here, again, it will be a private matter for you guys to negotiate the particulars of that road maintenance agreement. The fact that it has to exist does not mean that you have to have a 1/3 share in the financial burden. But again, we can't put that condition on the applicant in this setting. That would have to be something that you negotiate with the applicant yourself.
Through a civil district court, from my understanding.
Or friendly neighborly
Let's
meeting.
put the attorneys to the side for just a second. And I would like to address you.
Agreement offers is $30 a month to current.
Okay, again, we.
2,000 into the road last year.
Again,
She said,
we don't have jurisdiction over that.
Right.
We don't have mediating power over that. That is something you guys will have to decide on your own. And it will be up to the applicant to figure out a way to make that work if he wants his project to work. So all we can do is require that he creates an agreement that all parties agree to.
And I'm just gonna make a very general statement. I think before everybody starts ponying up attorneys. And we start going to the legal system, which we know is cumbersome and expensive, and it really makes hard feelings, okay? You've lived there a long time, he's trying to do something. Maybe we put the pistols on the tables and we just have some conversations as adults. And saying, hey, financially, here's where I'm at. Can we work something out? And that's maybe how we do it. It's just an idea. Take it as you will, but sometimes that's the way to just step back from the table for a second and take a deep breath. and re-enter.
Yes, ma'am, I do agree.
Just, you know,
It's just all of my previous attempts
okay,
have flopped.
so maybe what you do is you say, okay, previously this would happen, I'm willing to do it again, and maybe we go there, but just a suggestion, you do as you please, and it's again, it's a civil matter, but sometimes that works out well.
All right.
And
I'm going
may I just answer Joel's question? The $30 a month to use the road, we will never sign an agreement
Okay,
like that.
again, civil. Okay,
Take
thank
that
you for your time this
Thank
evening.
you.
Appreciate you addressing us.
All right, Joel and Michelle have already addressed us, so it looks like the only other person, Deborah, I assume that, as the power of attorney for your mother, you've addressed what you would like her
Yes,
to.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So then the only remaining comment is Tom Wells. If you can come up, state your name and address and whatever you'd like us to know.
First of all, sorry to get cleaned up. I was on-
Sorry.
Working man, we're okay with that.
I was on that motorhome town that burned down.
Right there in the intersection.
Right at the intersection, and I had to leave and run here quickly.
Well, thank you.
All right,
State your name and your address, sir.
Wells. Now, my address is 1708 F Road,
Uh-huh.
but I use 1710 Lane,
You access your home through
Thank
the
you.
lane.
yes. Yeah. All right, so what do you want?
So we did receive your comment through the email. We want to hear anything else you would like to add,
All right.
would like us to know.
Yeah, I have a few concerns. First of all, 1710 Lane goes into my property. It's a business. And I run a towing company. I have trucks in and out there all times of the day and night. Sometimes the trucks will sit in the center of the lane because there's not enough room for them to turn around. And they'll be there for an hour, maybe hour and a half or so, loading out. And we do this all day, all night. It's quite busy. And that first couple 100 feet of 1710 Lane, I'm the only one that maintains it. After it leaves my yard on up, it looks like a 4-wheel drive trail. I maintain the first part of that road. I always have since I've had it 12 years now. And a section of that 1710 lane, I was just looking on the map. A section of that lane is on my property as well.
Currently.
Yes. And that is a concern. The other concern is right where 1710 Lane comes to the road, F Road, it's right on top of the hill. I use that every day, and I swear, everybody times it, they know when I'm coming out, because that's where all the cars start coming. It's a traffic hazard right there. I have to stop every single time, because there's always 1, 2, 3 cars right there at the top of the hill. That's a bad intersection to make it a road. Other than just have to as a lane like it is.
Set distance to.
Question,
Yeah.
where's access for 1708 at?
Well, I turn on 1710 Lane.
1708 is.
Basically goes in here.
Yeah, we guess, yeah, no.
So they use the same collector.
They use the same thing to go in and then the lane goes, he goes right.
Yeah, I mean, cause on the plats that we've seen, there's a easement for that 1710 lane. I didn't see it. So you're saying you own part of that easement?
Yeah, it's part of my property, so I don't know how that ever was. It was just that way when I bought the property.
So you're thinking the lane as it stands is a part on your property,
Yeah,
but
it is.
if you look at a plat of your property, it shouldn't be there like the.
Well, I don't know, it's just that
Yeah.
way it was.
So there's no shared road easement on your property, but the actual lane is on your property?
Yeah.
Okay,
So they'll have to move it.
so it sounds like if they build it to standard, then according to the easement, it would have to get moved to the
It'll have
proper
to go
place.
to the east.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
Would that give you more space to operate your vehicles without impeding on the traffic into that road? If
Well-
if they move and upgrade the road?
It would help, yes,
Yeah,
but
okay.
the way I see, it, I can't stop growth. So what I would like to see. is put the back of the houses to 1710 lane, put a privacy fence all the way down. Give me privacy, because if these people buy these homes and they have kids, they're gonna be wandering over into me and causing concerns for safety and everything else, crawling on equipment, cars, trucks, whatever, and getting hurt.
Uh-huh. Are
So-
you concerned about new property owners objecting to your operations or?
And that's another issue as well. Yes,
Well, I think you're there before them, so that one.
yeah, but I would prefer to see all the back of the houses to 1710 lane, another road come into the east, they could service that road, could service all those houses. And we have a 10-foot fence or whatever between us. And I don't have to look at them. And I
The
can
address is on 1710 lane. We've already established access to those properties on 1710.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Huh.
So,
Okay.
okay, and then as far as that goes for the wetlands and the septic systems and all, that is a concern. Because my property is quite a bit lower than the rest. So every time those fields where they want to put the houses and stuff, they're irrigated. Where's all that go? It goes down, floods me out. Even if they put the leach septic system, leach fields, it's going to leach in. I have all around me, right to the backside of my shop, is wetlands. My driveway or my yard, if it rains, I got standing water, it won't go down. And this is a concern to me, because all that leach water has got to go somewhere, and it's going to come to me. Every bit of it, because I am on the downhill side of it. All around my house, my shops, everything is all wetlands. And that is a big concern, because I think if you put the septic systems in, I think it's going to be bad. And I got a pond right there too. It's all gonna leach down into me.
That's something that like the septic engine, whoever does
They
the
have to
engineered
do it,
septic
yeah.
is gonna consider as they consider the plan.
Yeah, you gotta be 4 foot from groundwater and all this stuff, but. You know,
But are they looking at adjacent properties? Are they just looking at the half acre?
no, they're looking at state requirements. I mean, it's, you know, they'll have to elevate them, big slopes, big mountains or whatever, yeah, it's all state stuff, but.
One last question, Tom. On 1710 lane, where is your access to your property? Is it that whole length? This is anywhere you want? or
Where's
is
the
there-
driveway?
It's basically within the first 100 foot off of the main road.
Off that-
But it's
Yeah.
quite a bit. He comes in there and there's probably like established 100 feet where he's bringing those big rigs in and turning them around and whatever, you know, so.
Yeah.
You gotta look at like him being able to preserve
Yeah.
what he's been using for however many years too. I mean, there's gotta be I don't know.
But if it's physically located on his property and that's not indicated. The road will have to be moved over to where the plat indicates.
I think he's gonna keep what is on his property, is all gonna stay, and there's gonna have to be a whole new road built over here on the actual property.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be one big road.
120 feet.
It's gonna be about like that, and that's what's gonna go on, so.
That's why I would like to see the edge of the road, both edges of the road shown on the plat to
Yeah.
determine if it's in that easement or not.
That's
Right.
why I was wondering why you asked that question. Now it makes sense.
That's specific to this comment.
So, yeah, there's some work's gotta be done for sure.
But that's why I'm saying, put all the back of the houses to that 1710 lane, make another road to the
So,
east.
Tom, if they did that, you and Miss Selby, is that right? Who else would access off of that 1710 lane then if they did do a separate road with
A
the
new
houses?
lane.
A new lane, yeah.
East.
It would be 486, there's a current.
And another property I plan on building.
Yeah,
on
so there'd be two properties up on the mesa that would still access to 1710. However, again, we still have the current addresses in 1710 that had previous access from 1710 with septic systems already there before.
And the remaining piece that you're not here talking to us about tonight, where would those access off of?
That would be a different access.
Okay, so we wouldn't see, okay, that-
We're not
Correct.
doing, yes,
I want to make sure
completely
that's
different,
not.
structure, curves, all this sort of thing.
So there would be potentially 4. Mr. Wells, Miss Selby, and
There's 2 on this.
2 others already on 1710 lane is all.
No,
There'd be
there'd be 3 more.
3, there'd be 3.
Yeah.
No, 4.
We have four,
This gentleman, her
And Selby.
mother, and myself.
there's four homes currently there using access.
Correct.
There'd be 4.
There's gonna be 3 more.
There'll be 3 more to add to it, which were
That's where the 7
also
comes in.
This is-
previously there. So those were previous homes that we just tore down. That had septic, that had infrastructure. So we're really not doing anything different than was done before, except just trying to subdivide the lots and build new homes. And give people.
And
Well,
Tim,
You're trying to establish 2 more lots that did not currently have, or did not previously have residents.
So,
One more.
one more lot.
Right.
And I hope, I've been looking at it, right, I hope that.
One more
But that
lot
would be
is
good.
on there. Because you don't have any building, it's different, the exact subdivided.
so Mr.
This is really about 3 new houses to replace 3.
When, sometimes we see multi-stage subdivisions. Why don't we ask for that?
Or we have.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that as well. Why are we only seeing this? And I guess it's the applicant's prerogative.
Yeah,
Why I asked the question earlier on, I was like, can you subdivide a subdivision?
Yeah.
Well, I'll address it from a legal standpoint. The one reason I did kind of withdraw that, the language in the county, and again, I'm a rookie, but it kind of said, if you turn this in, you're pretty much obligated, and if you don't do it, we can have recourse. So I know I can do this. So I was a little very to sign a document that says I'll absolutely build 12 houses. And particularly when there wasn't even a lot size established because of the land code, kind of, being a little crazy at the time.
Steve Ford, I mean, we had a lot of communication with many staff members of the planning department. And we really did get a lot of different information consistently. So we were advised, because we did submit, we did have many different scenarios that we proposed. We were advised by members of the planning commission to just submit this first phase to fulfill the integrity of the investors and the people that are doing the project.
Okay.
And then our hope in the next phase is to again, provide sustainable, affordable housing for Delta citizens that, and I want to address one thing, because I hear a lot of talk about irrigation water. I have a 30-acre farm with irrigation. I understand how this works. The amount of irrigation water we're talking about is enough for maybe a 200 square foot garden. We're talking about very small garden plants where people will be able to use them to grow their own food. And it's not gonna be like we're irrigating a field that is running off into a ditch. So again, Fernando is well aware of these parameters that we're working with. So he's addressed. But it's important to us that we give the citizens irrigation water to irrigate crops that they can have their family needed a small amount. We want to do that responsibly.
I got a question. Is any of your plans that you even thought about line up with what he's asking, a different road, or no? They all come up this road?
Well,
It makes no sense for the property to go that way. If we put in a road, it would limit us to maybe 6 more houses versus the 3, plus we can put a road down the middle of that field and have 3 or 4 houses on each side of that road.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we just have 2-acre properties.
So if you do that, then you're gonna go over, then you're gonna have to pave this road too, and then the other road.
Well, I'm
You're
not sure
prepared for
that, I guess I'd have to hear that. I have no intent on paving the road where I'm just building a couple of houses. We
Well, I
would
would-
pave the next road that's gonna be hopefully maybe 8
How's
houses.
the next road gonna go?
Right.
Yeah, but what?
And again, this is preliminary, but it's gonna flatly turned in with the. Let me go back to the other picture. So yeah, just down the middle of the field, just so you like stuff. And then house here, house here, house here. And another circle.
So, show us where the new road would go.
What do you want?
I got this one, Joel. So right now. I don't have to know. Okay, here we go. So right now, these are the current addresses. These 2 are the current addresses that had the trailers on them. There was the other address up front, and that was the house that was torn down. We're proposing, this is the lot 4 that we actually want to rebuild the house that was there here. The new road would come up over here, go right up the center of this lot, and then the house would be built around this road. So totally different entrance off the hill.
Paved and, you know, with the new, you know, new requirements.
Where is this road? Was sitting right up here. Tore down, and it had been lived in for many, many years. The two trailer houses that right here. Yes,
Yeah.
they were like they were set on one lot together. There was nothing here. This is a
Those
field.
weren't lot yet.
We heard those beyond.
No, buffer, yeah, two trailers in that one place now, and then. So that you were doing. One of these.
We talking, thank you.
It's called the San.
Give our attention to Mr. Will, that's still his floor in terms of public comment. We will follow up with questions for Joel or staff if we have any follow-up before we move to deliberation. Mr. Wells, it sounded like you had another concern or something.
Yeah, so what, the way I see this going is he wants to put the houses in. And then there's that open field, and then he's gonna eventually, well, I got this much done, I'm gonna go squeeze more in here. We're gonna fill this field up with lots also.
It sounds like that's his intention, whether or not that fits within the land use code, whether or not that is conditioned in any way. We can't make a decision on this current plan based on his projections of what he'll do with the residual lot. That's kind of just conjecture at this point. He will be able to do what he is able to do within the current legal framework that he does that in. What we have to decide is whether this plan meets the land use code that as it stood when he applied. And whether we want to add any further conditions that would ensure that the master plan and the land use code are followed, that as much as we can, that neighbor concerns are addressed within the legal framework that we have. So unfortunately, we can't really make any decisions or comments based on him saying where the new road is gonna be or the new, you know, the extra lots are gonna be. That'll be another thing. And you would likely be invited to that as well, noticed about that and invited to make comment on that in the future if that happens.
So, yeah, and but like I said, I think it needs to be another road and there needs to be a fence between us. Big privacy fence. It's for the safety, the public safety, the kids.
And you, not that we can decide it, but that is potentially something that you could agree with the applicant in a private matter, that you can construct a privacy fence along your fence line or somewhere else, but that is something that you would have to negotiate privately.
That's not possible. He's a quick talk, fast talker. And when you shake his hand, you gotta count your fingers to make sure you still got them all when you get it back.
Thank you.
Again, we can't make our assessments based on personality or character assessments. I think it seems like we have heard concerns from the public. If there's anyone else, would you like to add anything at this point? Have you decided if you want to add anything? Okay. I think we have.
Michelle, can I ask a question?
Yeah, let's.
Michelle, what is your connection to this gentleman?
So I'm gonna help sell the properties.
So having more lots to sell is why we're kind of seeing this.
We're also, yes, and we also are in business together. We are having another
Okay,
venture.
that's just to have an idea of the connection.
Yes, we're business partners. I'm not a business partner with the group, but we're a business partner with Brokeman Enterprises.
Okay,
And also I've been advising him and helping him over the past few years as far as real estate conditions in Delta. And just letting him know where the market's going and giving him input on the building design and that sort of thing.
Okay, just so I have an idea of the connection.
Yeah, so that's our connection. And I do just want to comment one thing, you know, Joel and I pretty much talk every day. And he has offered to put up privacy fence and split the cost. So I think it's funny that this was brought up tonight because, and that's just as a note aside, but as to the character of.
So he has offered to put up a privacy.
He's offered to split the cost.
Oh, split the cost.
Split the cost of a privacy fence with him because it's very unsightly. And it will not help the sale of the homes to look at that property. So I agree with him. I think a privacy fence is needed. Obviously, that's civil, so that's why it's not brought up here, but That has been addressed, and I think everything that Joel's done to the point has been done with complete integrity. And, yes, it's been out complete.
So Joel, you're proposing to pave yet a second side in lieu of having a maintenance agreement and potentially putting a financial burden on maybe people that don't have that because they're not selling lots where they have extra proceeds. It sounds like you're thinking about putting a fence up and maybe sharing the cost in that. You're obviously gonna be making money by building, and that's what I believe your realtor, Michelle, would be doing. What about you paving that? And then not needing this maintenance agreement, because in 2 years, according to Tim, that as long as you maintain it for a 2-year period of time, they would consider incorporating it into Road and Bridge, is that right, or?
The only other condition besides the pavement was that easement would have to be dedicated and fee simple title to the county.
Okay,
We would
so
own the
that's
land.
one option, we don't have to worry about putting pressure on Mr. Wells. We don't have to put pressure on, so I'm just putting it out as a thought.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and again, you know, I've been at this a long time, so I've had a lot of time to think about this, but. With the, initially, if the city was involved, for instance, and we could do smaller lots, but you know, to build 3 homes where you might make 10, 15,000 on each home. Put in $150,000 road doesn't make any sense, it won't make economic sense for me at all. If that was a requirement, to be honest, I'd have to bail out.
What about your what about a, you know, obviously Delta County, we're about saving ag,
Mhm,
okay?
mhm.
Do you think within your proposal, what you're doing, that you're actually preserving ag land up there?
Well, as Michelle kind of addresses that we are creating kind of mini agriculture for each of these lots. The next phase lots, we would hope would be quite a bit bigger, so it would allow for a little more of that. Now, it's not gonna be strict currently, well, there hasn't been ag on that land for a long time, to be honest, but it's not gonna be official farmland, if you will. But everybody will have the opportunity to grow vegetables, to have garden space, to have animal space. And then I plan on that whole wooded area, which is about 9 acres, to stay exactly what it is, which formerly had some ag land, some wetland. You know, I want to keep that green and wild.
Well, and I think also, because we've talked about putting trails in there for the residents to walk on and
Yeah, I
actually
read that.
improving the property, so it's very nice for Delta. And addressing ag land, because as you all know, who've known me before, it's very important for me to keep the ag tourism and the ag here for Delta County. I think that's super important. And that's why I stressed to Joel in the beginning, I said, we need to make sure that we maintain the irrigation water, you know, keep it with the properties on a smaller scale. Currently, this property has not been farmed for quite a while, and is in the UGA, or was it when the UGA existed? So it was already identified as a property that would be annexed into the city and developed. This is it's right by the high school. This is a prime residential area to build affordable housing for residents.
And I think that's based, Michelle, on interpretation. I'm gonna tell you that individuals that probably live in that area probably would differ about how they,
We only
maybe
do it in our
wetland, you know, that's how it is.
backyard.
How they're protecting wetlands or how they're doing that, so that might be a different interpretation is what I'm getting.
I understand it's not always for everyone, but
That's
our
right.
intention with the property is to maintain its integrity, its size level,
Okay.
put the walking trails on and keep the irrigation with it.
Mr. Chair?
All right, I'm feeling like we've heard from everyone pretty thoroughly, so I'm going to close public comment. The commission can discuss amongst ourselves. I would encourage kind of a movement towards some language of conditions sooner than later, and a motion to approve or deny or condition appropriately.
I got a final question from staff.
Oh, yeah.
Did this go to BOA and it doesn't have to because it's in the UGA? Great, clarification.
One more question. We recently had a similar experience up in Eckerd where we needed to discuss the development in total, although there were only 3 lots being built on. I'm talking about access onto Highway 65. Do we need to consider this in total? Considering that bottom blue piece potentially could have 3 or 4 more lots incorporated in there.
But there was no phased plan.
Yeah, the other one was a
submitted with
phase plan. That's right.
this.
So we can't really legally
No.
talk about what may or may not happen with
We're gonna be
the.
back at it again.
Yeah. Yeah,
Back to that. Subdivided subdivision stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Alright. I heard, we talked initially about adding. To the condition about water, suitable water, adding some verbiage about suitable sewage disposal.
I think we gotta add
Um,
the irrigation water plan, sewage disposal plan, and the 1710 lane is rebuilt to local access road standards. I don't see those in the condition.
Okay.
Those would be the three that I would add. And I think the irrigation water plan and the sewage disposal plan may alleviate some of the concerns that the public comment on here, but we should be able to resolve some of.
I think the other thing that needs to be considered that our land use code dictates is that, there needs to be wetland delineation.
On the plats.
In the plats, it says if there's evidence that wetlands are present on a subject property, such resources shall be identified in wetlands delineation. Development shall not occur within delineated wetlands or within 100 foot of the boundary of delineated wetlands.
These are not in those.
Which-
Wetland, I know.
So
based on some surveys you've had done or
Yeah, mostly because there were three houses.
Previously, there's just flats.
Sure.
Dry land.
but part of this subdivision is this residual lot, and
Not
so I
this
think.
subdivision, not this current subdivision.
But the residual.
Well, the residual lot is part of your subdivision, correct? So I think what Todd is saying is that within the plat. We need to delineate where the wetlands are, so future subdivision couldn't be on those, so that that as plans are being developed, we're making sure we're 100 feet from them and
well,
whatnot.
I mean, the differing views from the that are close to the property of where these.
Where they
where these
actually are.
wetlands.
Yeah,
And really, if there are no wetlands that interfere with this development, this just proves their point. So I think it should be a part of our conditions.
who does that? Who?
Tim.
No.
No.
There are environmental companies out there.
So that we require.
You don't have a little extra time.
Tell us where they were.
I do have my booth, but I don't have time.
There you go.
Bring liability to the county that we're not gonna.
Yeah, the cattail fund.
Great. I think that's a good point. Thanks for finding that info.
Uncompahgre Valley Water Users requires an HOA, and so we probably want to put that as a condition if they are gonna split irrigation. And the HOA could probably cover the water and the road stuff, but that's up to them. Yeah.
I'm concerned about the existing business of Old Red there. I think people should be able to move forward and develop the ground. I think a lot of this is gonna get hashed out through the engineers on the leach fields, the county on the road. The maintenance agreement's kind of up in the air. I don't feel like, you should have to put someone on a maintenance agreement that has nothing to do with this thing. They're just sitting up there, living their life, and next thing you know, here you go, bud. So I think that's kind of not real cool. And I think that the established business has been there forever. I don't know if the county road, when it comes through, is gonna let him continue his historical use of pulling off that road in a 100 to 150 foot range. So I just would like to make sure that he's not gonna get restricted down to here's your 30 feet kind of a deal. I don't think that's fair because he's been there running for 30 years. Right? So, and that's where we get into but on the other hand, I think people should be able to develop their ground if they're doing it right. So I'm just kind of in between on this one. So there's some conditions that gotta be done where we're not affecting everybody else, but he can move on too.
I wonder if verbiage on that would be kind of, again, show the road edges on the final plat and ensure that the road actually exists within the easement, but also that, and I don't know how we condition this, but that in building that road, we are protecting the existing use of the neighbor's
Use or
land.
something.
Yeah.
I keep saying this is my last question.
You said that 4 questions.
And I tell you, so the Selby property, does it have its own irrigation?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Selby?
Yes, it does.
Okay,
We
so
have our own irrigation.
if there was this HOA created to accommodate the road and the waters, would they be exempt from that HOA?
They will be HOA, but the road agreement. It's not an HOA, but they would have to participate in the road agreement.
They have to.
Because they take access off that road as well.
Access right now without
I
it.
think the road. It would be nice if they did, but if they say, I'm not gonna pay, then it's still involve all the new lot,
Yeah.
they would all have to share.
That's what I'm saying.
If the Selby's don't wanna participate, well,
Yeah, I don't
can't make it.
Yeah, they still get right to that road. Good point.
Again,
Anything else?
Just to be clear, those are additional conditions to what the planning department.
Would be to add a condition that the road is upgraded to county standards and that is ensure that it's placed within the road easement on the plat. That the water and sewer, appropriate water and sewer, is, they can prove appropriate water and sewer for each lot. That there is an irrigation plan and HOA developed for the UEW.
And on the road, what about protecting the integrity of Mr. Wells's business?
Yeah, but is that in the same condition as the road? I don't know quite how to phrase that, I suppose.
Oh, well, yeah, we gotta have that in there.
And then the wetland delineation on the plat.
They will protect Shelby's access through the property
Yeah.
historically.
Historic, yeah, she's got the same thing as Wells, basically.
We preserve the historic accesses that are existing.
So that new improvements or new road would protect the integrity of historic access to neighboring properties.
So they're living their life the same as it was before.
And
May I
the
clarify
developer can
something?
develop, yeah.
Yeah.
The easement is not for the Brew Group. The easement is for access for Selby and Wells. Because you don't need an easement to cross your own land.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
That's why it's in Selby's legal description.
Okay.
So she doesn't even have to be in the road agreement.
In my opinion, it's in her best interest. But it's a civil matter, so it's not county's not gonna dictate that she. I mean, we can't force them, but
What does the condition, is there a condition that talks about a road agreement?
yeah.
Yeah, there is.
A minute approved.
Number 5.
Yeah.
Talked about that. Private road
So
agreement.
in the condition, it says the agreement shall include all lots within subdivision as well as all adjoining properties. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a civil matter.
Selby. These are them.
It's a civil matter.
Yeah, again, we can't say what's in that, but
What'd you
As
say?
she said, they were contributing, to maintain the road before.
again, we can't
I know, but I'm
really,
saying, like, I don't think we
it's
can.
not really our.
Excluded so that I can at least pursue a conversation and try to figure out how we can get this road repaired. 90% of it goes to the Selby property anyway.
I don't think our conditions are gonna include or exclude anybody, it's just gonna dictate
No.
that a road maintenance agreement exists.
Yeah.
Mhm. Wherever they work that out.
Yeah.
What was that last kind of ambiguous road improvement will respect the historic use?
Any improvements or changes to 1710 lane will protect historic access
To exist.
to existing properties?
Yeah, something like
Does that sound good?
that.
People?
Okay.
Anyone want to make that a formal motion?
And then a delineation,
Say.
delineation of wetlands. I move to approve PLN 23-083 with staff recommendations, the first 12 conditions with additional conditions as followed. That the road is upgraded to county standards and is placed within the road easement on final plat. Proof of adequate water and sewer for each lot is provided at final plat. An irrigation plan and HOA created to meet the UBWA standards at final plat. Any improvements or changes to 1710 Lane will protect historic access to existing properties. And that a delineation of wetlands is present on the final plat.
I would second that.
Just have a question. Did you also talk about sewage disposal plan?
Yeah.
I did. Proof of adequate water and sewer for each lot.
There's a motion and a second. Shall we take a vote?
Michelle, for those approved.
All right, all those in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. All right, motion passes. We have recommended this to the Board of County Commissioners now. That's your final approval process. Members of the public, you have one more chance to speak your mind about things to them as well. They will receive a briefing of this process, but if you feel strongly about anything going forward, you have one more chance to have your say as well. Hopefully that the conditions that we've put on help alleviate some of the concerns that you have. And hopefully the private negotiations about the details go smoothly. Good luck.
And ours are just recommendations. I mean, the board can just, Board of County Commissioners can decide what they want, but we just send recommendations, so.
Thank you for your time.
And thank you all for coming this evening and for putting your input in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so there is space on the agenda for a department report. Anyone over there have anything else to say about what's going on? No. And any requests, referrals, comments, anyone within the planning commission? No. Anything else to say or request for a future meeting?
Thanks for being here, Tim.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was very helpful.
That was very good, Kate, not being here.
And then just, do we have anything on the agenda for next month yet?
I don't think yet.
Okay.
You need a raise.
So our next meeting is gonna be the 14th of August, is that correct?
That is correct.
And Matt, or Tony, was that the one you could not make?
Won't be.
Okay,
We do not have anything on the agenda as of now.
Okay.
so you'll let us know.
Where's the engineering intern from?
I'm from Georgia, and I go to CMU.
CMU?
Originally from.
I'm originally up there.
Good deal.
No idea.
Civil stuff or? Stop. You could always use a lot more engineers.
A meeting at 7:22.
Yes.
And thanks everyone.
Thank you.